Hello there everybody, welcome back to my channel. How are you doing today, beautiful? My name is Joesephyr, and in today's Dissidia Should You Pull video, we're going to be talking about Sabin, Kuja, and the brand new story chapter that's going to be coming along with them. Sabin gets some very interesting sort of nuance to his FR and the rest of his kit as well. Kuja gets something, I guess. And the story chapter is actually pretty interesting, so if you're interested in learning more about these things, then of course stay tuned and keep on watching. Of course, don't forget to check out all of my social media links down in the description box below, including Twitter, Twitch, Discord, and Patreon. Over on Twitch, I'm taking a little bit more of a back seat for a couple of weeks as I've been kind of struggling for some new ideas and stuff like that. However, we do have on Friday the Xenoblade Chronicles 3 subathon, which I'm very excited for because I've not played Xenoblade Chronicles 3 before, and it's going to be kind of the last day where I'm raising money for my trip to the US over in October, as obviously it's a nice thing to kind of lead up and finish on as well when it comes to that goal. So a massive thank you once again goes out to all of the people that have contributed and supported this particular drive, including the likes of Sixtails, Sutiban, Luka Yasha, Saidis Kali, Ultra Flash Flare, all sorts of you guys. Thank you ever so much for doing that. I really appreciate it, and without you guys I wouldn't be able to do any of this stuff, so thank you very much. And another thank you of course goes out to my patrons over on Patreon, one of which I do always shout out every time I release a brand new video, and today that person is going to be GGTube, who is brand new to my Patreon. A massive thank you goes out to you, and their title card has Tidus on it, who is a very popular pick as of late. Tidus is a great character for people to pick, so thank you very much for your support, and thank you to all of my patrons for theirs as well. And if you're interested in getting a title card made just for you, as well as some other benefits as well, then perhaps consider joining up on the link in the description box below. And lastly, of course, don't forget to check out all the other content creators out there for Dissidia and the resources out there for it, as they deserve your love too. So now let's get stuck into the banner itself. So the banner is going to contain Sabin, his brand new FR, and the rest of his kit as well, which has been reworked. It's going to have two banners on it, one of which will have Lunafreya BT, the other of which will have Kuja. The rest of Kuja's kit is featured across both banners, so LD, EX, etc. And then Quistis returns with her LD kit as well, and force enhancements all around. So Quistis LD is still a nice pickup to have. Like, there are situations where Quistis is useful and no other character can really do what Quistis does. So it's a nice extra if you don't already have her, but I certainly wouldn't go out of my way for her at this point. There's a lot of delay-based characters, and yes, Quistis does have a unique niche within that and has a lovely call to go with it, but there are other means of ways you can do that. So let's talk about the characters that are actually on the banner. So Kuja is getting a rework and a C90 here, and it is the most basic rework I have ever seen on a character, and it saddens me so much that my boy is being mistreated by the game this way. So first things first, big shout outs to Mediu for their translations over on Reddit. So Ring Holy does 3 HP dumps now, Ultima does 4 as long as you're doing the plus version, which I will say, for 100% AoE HP dumps isn't terrible, it's not awful. And then Seraphic Star is just getting nothing, basically. It just gets a little bit more bravery between HP dumps, but it has 7, it has 7 HP dumps anyway. And then his EX has 4 HP dumps. His BT aura is pretty average by today's standards, like it has HP damage cap up on there, and he is a Holy Enchanter and Imperiler, which is useful for Sabin. And he is brought up to kind of the level that other characters like him are at. I'd have liked to seen at least one more HP dump across the board, certainly on his EX. 4 is not great on a BT-based damage dealer, and while he's kind of leaned back into his more supporting role and aura-based kit, I just don't think he's very good, and it really saddens me because he's Kuja, and I love Kuja, but he just isn't. He's not exciting in any way, shape or form in this game anymore. Like, multiple HP dumps used to be his thing because Ultima Plus was the double HP dumping attack, and that was like, whoa, never seen anything like it before. But now he is as generic gets, and they've done my boy dirty. So now let's talk a bit about Sabin, who is the main feature character of this banner, getting an FR as well. So Sabin's rework is basically what you would expect from him at this point. So his aura cannon is defense ignoring attack that now has 4 HP dumps on it, which is okay for a like LD only attack. It's not great, but it's okay. Razor Gale is an AoE HP attack for 3 HP dumps, but it does also AoE delay by 2 turns. Both of these will inflict the Wind and Holy Resistance down debuffs, which is what Sabin obviously plays off of. His LD now has 6 HP dumps in it and gives him his buffs like from the start of the fight, so you get Battle Spirit Unleashed. You'll never have to worry about not having the plus versions of his skills again, pretty much. And then his EX has a small recast rate increase, also has 6 HP dumps, and also reduces the amount of bravery that he consumes when he attacks, which is really nice. So like it means that he's using less bravery between his HP dumps. It's all good. Like in terms of the rework, it saddened me a little bit that Kuja got so little in terms of HP dumps, while Sabin got 6 across the board from his LD and his EX, which is kind of sad. For Kuja anyway. It's good for Sabin though. His main gimmick is the fact that he has defense ignoring in his kit, the fact that he always hits for critical damage, he always hits for weakness damage because of his self enchantments, and he has AoE like delay in his kit as well. So that as a rework, it's all fine. He's an LD based damage dealer. What more can you really want from somebody like him? His FR is also actually very simple, and it's good if you're willing to put the work in to make it work. So his partner is 8 HP, or defense ignoring HP, triple dump, so nothing new there. When a turn passes with a wind attack command selected, or when a turn passes with a holy attack command selected, you get plus 60% if you do both of them. Now Sabin doesn't enchant the party. However, there are ways of enchanting the party for those 2 elements. So wind, your only real option is Fujin, and I honestly pulled for Fujin's LD at the very least, so that I had a reason to be able to do this for Sabin. And then Kuja, Ash, there are other characters that can enchant for Holy as well. So if you are willing to sacrifice slots in your calls to make, or your party slots, like Fujin and Sabin actually work kind of well together, then you can actually put those 2 together and make it so that you're getting 60% plus on all of your attacks from your entire party, which is actually pretty vicious. And he makes it so that all parties' bravery attacks ignore defense, which is cool. Like, it's nice. Like, it's not the first time we've seen an ability like that. It's the first time we've seen one attached to an FR, though. And yeah, Sabin is nice. He's nice. He's certainly not a mandatory pick. Like, honestly, for me, he's like the reverse of the Iroha banner. Other people really like Iroha because of her generic nature, and I sort of like warded away from her a little bit for that reason. Whereas Sabin has a bit more specifics and is pairing up with a character that I happen to really like, which is Fujin, and makes her slightly better, and she makes him slightly better, and there's team compositions there that are more sort of railroaded into what they can do, but there's still wiggle room to do other things, and I enjoy that quite a lot. I'm not going to lie to you, I'm miffed about Kuja's treatment. Like for a primary antagonist with a BT, he's gotten shafted multiple times now, and it's starting to get on my nerve. And sadly, it doesn't get much better with his FR either. Sabin, on the other hand, I think is a cool character to pick up if you've got a surplus of resources, but we are about to go into another sort of gauntlet of big characters, namely Core, Tifa, Rinoa, other characters like that. They're all very popular characters, and it won't be long after that before we get like Hope and stuff. So realistically, if you're wanting a place to save, this is not a hugely priority banner for most people. So now let's take a look at the event that comes along with Sabin and Kuja, and it's the second part of the current story chapter that we're on. And for those of you who were concerned that perhaps we've only got a basic version of Ultimisia for part 1, part 2 might be exciting to you because it's going to have Junctioned Griever as the boss fight here. I personally really like it when they use like iconic bosses from the series to sort of navigate their way through the story of the game, and I think it's really cool that they're using Junction Griever here. But in terms of the mechanics, Junction Griever is pretty simple, but the thing I will note is that there's a lot of HP to go through here. Like, much like, some of the events we've had in the past that use these story characters like Braska's Fine Leon, there's a lot of HP to go through. So, Junction Griever's main mechanics, in fact the attacks that they use, of course big shout out to DissidiaCompendium.com here, aren't anything particularly special. They're just basic Brave HP attacks, and that's kind of it. And Artemisia also comes along with an Irvin mannequin who only really has HP attacks to worry about. As long as you're sort of nullifying the amount of HP damage you're taking in some method or manner, or making sure they don't get turns at all, then you're not going to have to worry about Irvin. But Irvin himself has 70 million HP, so that's something to consider. At 79% HP, once you get to that point with the Junction Griever, she'll put an aura over herself, which makes it so that she can't take damage at all until you use an AoE delay. You can use a single target delay to get rid of the aura, but only if the Irvin mannequin has been KO'd already. So you're going to have to bring some AoE delay with you. And then as the force time increases, all that really happens is that party bravery and HP damage and their turn rate goes up. When they finally hit, when Junction Griever finally hits the 100% force time, you can expect Meteor Plus, which is a pretty hard-hitting AoE like HP attack, and it also makes it so that whenever Junction Griever attacks you, she deletes your turns. So that's something that you're going to want to consider as well. When it comes to just dealing lots of damage to Artemisia, you have two options here. I should also mention as well that at 29% HP, she heals all of her health pack and moves into a second form. So that's why there's so much HP to go through here. And obviously she has her thresholds here a second time as well. When she gains her purple aura, she jumps to the front of the the turn queue and gains 3 consecutive turns. So basically an improved version of Artemisia's Apocalypse. And if obviously her force time is up, then she's going to be deleting your turns each time you do it. Now, for this reason, I know I'm on a bit of a Cloud of Darkness high at the moment, but Cloud of Darkness is actually fantastic for this fight. Purely because if Artemisia has something to say about deleting your turns, or has any kind of way of getting around that, she'll use her AoE attacks, delete your turns, and then Cloud of Darkness will counter her, and then get a turn, and then you use Zero Form Particle Beam, and then delay her right back again, and then therefore, it's as if nothing really happened. But honestly, you've got two main ways of doing it if you don't want to use Cloud of Darkness. You can either make it so that Artemisia doesn't get any turns whatsoever, or you can make it so that she gets lots and lots of turns and you punish her for it. So I'm talking your Renos, your Galoofs, your Aurans, stuff like that. Bear in mind that Artemisia only deletes your turns during force time if she actually hits you. So if you want her to hit you, then you want Auran. If you don't want her to hit you, then you'll want Galoof for that kind of thing. But largely, again, like with many events, a lot of people will do Charlotta or Lunafreya to charge up the FR, the force gauge, go off. That'll take down one of her HP gauges, and then you'll have to do it again. If you actually take her down from 79% or above 79% down to 29% on the first phase, then she doesn't actually get her first sort of purple aura. I have seen that happen. So you can do it that way if you want to avoid the first bit entirely, but honestly, just bring an AoE delay. It's not something that's particularly difficult to do. Although I am going to point this out, and I'm going to give a shout out to Kaizuki here for their Reddit thread. When I've talked about the kinds of things you see when it comes to clears on Shinryu fights, if you take a look at this list that I've got here for you, you're going to notice a lot of the same names. Now, these are not the only videos that I watch when it comes to watching clears over on the JP side of things, but I guess this is just my way of kind of giving a bit of evidence to what I've spoken about when it comes to the way that Shinryu is going, in that you just see a lot of the same names very frequently. There's a lot of clears here from a lot of different people. And apart from, there's a couple down the bottom here that use, Sabin and Kuja, Reno Squall, Reno Vincent, stuff like that is really cool. But then there's so many people using Lunafreya, Tidus, Cannonor, Charlotta, Selfie. There's so many players using those characters that it's kinda hard to ignore it. But I'm planning on using Sabin, and Sabin weirdly actually isn't used that much here, neither is Kuja, but I would like to find a way to use Fujin and Sabin. There is actually a clear for them there. And I think that that'll be how I want to do it. But I think it just comes down to a choice of whether you want to be inventive in your clears or whether you want an easy ride. But if you want some examples of clears, Kaizuki has a bunch there for you just off the bat. So now, of course, we have Would You Pull, the section of the video where you, the viewer, get your chance to let your voice be heard and let everyone know whether you would pull on this particular banner and why or why that may be the case. So, gonna go straight into numbers. Thank you very much to my patrons for casting their votes and their comments. 6% of people said yes to gems on this banner, 31% of people said yes to 100 or more tickets, 44% said less than 100 tickets, and 19% said no thanks. I'm willing to spend tickets on this banner because I really like Sabin, and I still don't have Lunafreya BT. Would I token Lunafreya BT if I didn't get it? Probably not, on the back of the fact that I can do that anytime, and if I really felt like I needed Lunafreya BT, I can do that then. I have the rest of her kit. Would I like it? Absolutely. Will I need it? Probably not. You know, she's perfectly busted without it. I think the more of her kit I can get, the better, and I was like fully going in on trying to get her whole kit, but the more I think about it, the more I'm like, do I really need this? I probably don't. Sabin, I would like. I think he's cool. I think he's quite unique, and he's quite sort of like specific on what he likes to do. Kuja, on the other hand, can do one. I'm sick of Kuja in this game. Like, am I going to play him? Probably, because he's Kuja, but am I happy about it? No. Honestly, do my boy some justice, will you? Let's go into some comments. So GG Tube, who was brand new to Patreon, as we mentioned earlier, says, glad to be a patron. Thank you very much. No, thank you. As for Sabin and Kuja, I decided to skip this one. I like Sabin, but I feel the setup cost is way too high. Not enchanting an element is fine, as you're supposed to build around your FR, and some can do that. Some that can have lower bonuses. But 2 elements is a bit much for me, especially considering you get similar results with less setup costs, like Iroha. Interesting, though. Like, we feel completely differently about that. As for Kuja, first entry and Joe probably going to ban me. I doubt it. I agree with probably anything that's about to be said here. His rework is more damage, which is all he really needs, but I feel the damage upgrade just isn't enough, especially considering his BT effect is outdated, lacking HP damage cap up. Yeah, he only has bravery damage cap up, which is a bit pants. And unlike units like Tidus or Minwoo, he can't get away with it. It seems to me that they don't know what direction to go with Kuja. Should they make him a strong DPS with decent utility, or vice versa, and they made him neither? If you want Holy Enchant, Yuri is on the next banner, who outdamages him and oututilises him, and in the other Holy BT units like Ashe, Minwoo, later, you can, and yeah, it's just... everything that's being said here is absolutely true of Kuja, and it does really sadden me that one of my favourite characters, not my only favourite character, a lot of people liken me to Kuja, with good reason, I do talk about him quite a lot, but he is not my only favourite character, and quite honestly, I am not a favourite, like, I mean, I could make entire videos, you guys know how I feel about the whole favourites over meta thing, it's like, Kuja can still be my favourite character outside of this game if I don't want to play him here. I still really like him. He's got a very interesting story. He's got a really cool character design. Trance Kuja looks badass. If he's crap in this, then I'll live with it and I'll move on to somebody else. It's not that big a deal. I don't feel that attached to him. But I do think that it's unfortunate that he's just, like, as has been said here, that people just don't know what to do with him. He just seems like this, in this middle of the road buffer, damage dealer, not quite sure where they're going with it, and it's like, oh, just pick a lane and run with it. Ilya? Poor old Kuja just gets no justice. And while Sabin, I do think, does require a lot of setup, I do think that 60% across the, like, on every attack is pretty good, and I don't think it's as big an amount of setup as people think it is. Like, yeah, your party build has to be quite specific for it, but it's only as difficult as popping a cool ability or two and then going ham. It's not that bad, but I do understand where you're coming from, and I do think that a lot of people will feel similarly to this, and I do think that Sabin is a low priority pick for a lot of players. Sergeant Tuffy says, this will certainly be a skip from me. Sabin's always been neat, but whenever he shows up, he's just 1 or 2 pieces shy of being truly amazing. He's a DPS unit hamstrung by being LD only, absolutely. And while his FR is pretty good, it's coming out at the wrong time. Starting in just a few weeks, we're getting a brutal gauntlet of amazing FRs, Core, Tifa, Faris, Renoa, and then after that we only have another month until the likes of Hope and Celeste. Forgot about Celeste, and I forgot about Faris. How did I forget about Faris? With my FR Awakening resources as squeezed tight as they are, I've already afforded my I just kinda like them budget. Now's the time to only pull for the FRs that I know I'll be getting mileage out of. For what it's worth, the next time Sabin comes out, he's likely to come around with a BT given the new JP policy. I think that's, for me, he fits into the I just kinda like them budget. So therefore, I've had a fair few characters fit into that budget, but I think I have probably been a bit too frivolous with my resources up until this point. But I do kinda like him. I think he's fun, I think he's quirky, but again, people really don't need him. He is very much a superfluous pick. I'm not sure how I feel about the new JP policy with BTs, honestly. Like, I mean, to be honest with you, the bit that concerns me more is the drop in content than anything, especially considering there's more BTs and stuff like that. I don't know if I want to make a video about it, but the direction the game is going in JP is not one that I'm particularly impressed by, but maybe you guys feel differently from me. And then finally, Sir Alex says, I'm ticketing Sabin while the FR is decent. I feel that it has the same issue Braska has, which is not providing enough given what you need to do to make it work. Camlanaut is also in the same team, but his boost is higher, intended or not. You can make him work and build around him, that's the good thing about Shinryu, but I don't feel like you are well rewarded for that. I do think that that's a good and bad thing about Shinryu, I think that there is a misconception that if you can make anything work, it's good, and I personally feel that like, content in the game should be more kind of catered around, well, you know, it's a gacha game at the end of the day. Like, you should be wanting to pull for stuff. But also, because there are so many characters, as we saw with that list of characters earlier for the Shinryu, that just get left to the wayside. So, if you're not fussed about, like, favourites over meta like I am, then that's probably not a great thing. Like, if you're wanting a reason to use power, the game's not really giving it right now, and I don't know whether it will do in the future. We do have some difficult fights coming up, but I do think that we could do with just more content to flex our muscles with. And I think that that's really, and I'm not necessarily talking about your roster size, I'm talking about, like, actually engaging with the game. Like, if you want to build around Sabin, fantastic. Give me a reason to do that. As opposed to, well, I could, but I just don't really need to. I could just throw Lunafreya in it and be done with it. Like, I know that a player can make their own challenges, and a lot of people do that, but I'm not a big fan of the idea that I have to do that in order to get the most out of the game. I want the game to be able to provide that for me, as well as making fun and silly teams on the side as well. So now let us ask the big question, of course, should you be pulling for Sabin and Kuja? Probably not, honestly. I mean, Kuja's there. He's there. But he's also kind of just there. Like, he gets basically nothing from this upgrade, and honestly, it makes me genuinely annoyed. But Sabin is fine. Like, he's got some really cool stuff to play around with if you want something that's specific, that's something to play around with. Some, like, specific builds that you want to play with, like if you like Fujin or you're looking forward to Yuri, both of which are characters I really like, and hence I want Sabin. You know, there's a lot there too, like, if you want somebody that can carry those kinds of things, and I think it would be fun to play around with the AoE delay, the fact that he makes your party ignore defense during his FR. 60% plus, like, every turn from all party members isn't something to sniff at, and I actually really like Fujin in particular with Sabin, because Fujin has the off-turn damage, but her FR sucks, and therefore you don't really want to use it. And you can use sort of Sabin and Fujin in conjunction to kind of cover quite a lot of bases, because you're then able to sort of like counter things for anything that's turn jumpy. As a matter of fact, those two characters for this Shinryu is actually really good. But if you like Ashe, like coming up later, you might want to consider using Ashe with Sabin. But there's just too many things that go against him right now. Like, we've just had some amazing characters like Lunafreya. We're coming up to elemental lockout content, which isn't very far away, and that hurts him way more than it does Lunafreya, because Lunafreya can ignore her elements. Sabin can't really do that. He also suffers from being an LD-only damage dealer. Like, if you're talking about, you know, Path of Least Resistance and all of that, you're not going to take Sabin with you. And if you are talking about, like, playing characters regardless of what they do, then what are you doing watching a video like this? You know? It doesn't carry any kind of off-turn damage like Cisne or Freya or even Fujin, which combats the fact that he doesn't have things he can do when it's not his turn, or the fact that he doesn't have a BT to, like, really capitalize on the things you could be doing on turn. He's fine, but he's not up there. And when, like looking at that list earlier, there are so many characters that are that exceptional, not to mention the fact that we've got Gladio, Core, Tifa, Renoa, all sorts of other characters coming up fairly soon that are that exceptional. It don't look good for Sabin. So that's everything on today's video for Dissidia. Well, let me know in the comments below what you think of Sabin and Kuja. Are you as annoyed about Kuja and his treatment as I am? Because I certainly... He's usable, but goddamn is he boring, and he's completely lost any semblance of the thing that made him unique, and that's what winds me up. And let me know what you guys think about that in the comments below as well. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, click the bell for notification of future videos I might be making, and come and find me on Twitch on Friday if you'd like to come and share the experience of Xenoblade Chronicles 3 with me. I'm really looking forward to that, and I think it'll be a lovely sort of way to kind of bookend everything that's happened in the last month, and a massive thank you goes out to all of you once again for all of that. So that's going to be it from me, beautiful. Thank you ever so much for joining me, and I'll see you next time. Take care.